A hunched black silhouette in the dying light. A bald, scabbed head streaked pink and gray. A throat pouch swinging loose with every slow, deliberate step. This is the marabou stork, the bird an entire continent has nicknamed the Undertaker, a living omen standing over the dead. Everything you just felt about it is a lie. One of these birds clears up to 2 kilograms of rotting waste every single day, free of charge. And in the one place people still hunt it, believing its body brings luck, its population has already been cut in half. Every culture that has ever shared this wetland with the marabou stork, the Leptoptilus cruminifer, tells the same unkind story. He is the Undertaker. Not a nickname given with affection, but a verdict passed the moment he first appears at a carcass site on this Serengeti Mara ecosystem wetland margin. Look at him, and the verdict seems obvious enough. A bald, scabbed head, the color of an old bruise, set on a long gray neck, a throat pouch that swings loose and pink with every slow step, like something already decaying. He does not glide like the eagles people choose to admire instead. He stalks, hunched, patient. And something patient is rarely trusted. Taller than a grown man, he stands over a colony of white-backed vulture, Gyps africanus, already feeding, waiting for his turn at a carcass that is not his kill. There is an older story, too, one that predates any nickname anyone alive remembers giving him. In parts of East Africa, folklore holds that when every other creature on this continent had already been given its shape, this bird was assembled from whatever was left over. A bird built from spare pieces, wearing a funeral coat he never asked to wear. It is the kind of story that survives for a reason. It explains a silhouette that unsettles people on sight, and it feels true precisely because he looks the part. Look at that face again. Scabbed, bald, grotesque by any ordinary standard of what a bird should look like. This is exactly what the myths were built from. There is another charge waiting for him here too, one that has nothing to do with omens or appearances. He haunts garbage dumps and slaughterhouses on the edge of Kampala and cities like it. A filthy pest drawn to human waste the way flies are drawn to rot. Watch him arrive at this carcass now, and that accusation seems to right itself. Blood streaks the bald skin of his skull as he tears into the ribs. The throat pouch inflates and sags, inflates and sags, an organ with no obvious purpose except to look diseased. Beside him, a Ruppel's vulture, Gyps rapelli, works a different angle of the same carcass, and even she keeps her distance from his bulk. A Nile crocodile, Crocodilus niloticus, submerged at the reed line, watches the whole scene with patient, ancient indifference. Above them both, an African fish eagle, Haliaetus vocifer, circles once, sizing up a bird nearly its own size for a meal it did not have to kill. This is the image his reputation was built from. The bald head, the swaying pouch, the hunched weight beside the dead. everything you are about to feel watching him is exactly what every generation before you has felt. The case against the marabou stork, on the surface, is a strong one. Start with the face. The bald, scabbed skin every myth points to first. It is not decay. It is facultative scavenger engineering, the same solution a vulture reached for millions of years earlier on a completely different branch of the bird family tree. Feathers on that head, buried inside a carcass for hours a day, would mat with blood and breed the exact bacteria a scavenger exists to avoid. Bald skin can be cleaned by nothing more than sun and wind. It is not neglect. It is sterile design. Now the throat, the pouch that swings and sags with every step, the detail people find most unsettling of all. Inside that skin is something researchers call a subcutaneous air pouch. Not one organ, but two, each doing a different job. Inflate the pouch beneath his chin, and he is signaling dominance to a rival standing too close. Inflate the pouch across his back, and he is signaling something closer to apprehension. Both pouches rise together during courtship, alongside a low guttural resonance no other sound on this wetland quite matches. What looks like a symptom is, biologically, a conversation. The evidence so far does not support the accusation. It quietly dismantles it. Down at the waterline, the actual agents of decay are already at work, and none of them are him. A blowfly, Chrysomia species, metallic blue-green, lands on exposed tissue within the hour. Left uncontested, its offspring could overwhelm a carcass this size within a day. A column of driver ants, Doralus species, works the ground nearby, blind and relentless, stripping what they can reach down to sinew. Every hour this carcass sits in the heat, bacteria multiply inside it, a biological clock counting toward contamination. This, not the marabou stork, is what filth actually looks like. There is one more accusation left, and it is the oldest insult in the animal kingdom. The idea that scavenging is somehow lesser than killing. They called him a coward, a thief. Scientists have a fancier word for the same charge: kleptoparasitism, stealing another animal's kill instead of making one himself. The court will hear, in a moment, exactly how much killing this bird actually does himself. But first, consider what a keystone species means, stripped of the insult. Not the animal that kills the most, but the one whose absence would unravel everything around it. Every organism racing to break down this carcass today is working against a clock that this bird, more than any of them, is built to stop. Nearby, an African sacred ibis, Thresciornis aethiopicus, picks through the same waterline, following the marabou stork's lead, the way a smaller scavenger follows a bigger one it trusts to find the food first. It is not tribute. It is triangulation. Proof that other species read this bird's presence as information, not threat. And when a colony of white-backed vulture works alongside him at a carcass like this one, the division of labor is precise. Vultures open what a hide alone cannot, and he finishes what they leave behind. This wetland margin, and every carcass site like it across the Serengeti Mara ecosystem runs on that division, whether anyone gives it credit or not. So return for a moment to the coward accusation. The idea that he only ever waits, only ever steals, never actually hunts. It is about to be tested against exactly the kind of evidence no myth ever accounted for. The first marabou stork arrives already mid-stride, wings folding down onto stilted legs as he closes the final distance to a carcass at the wetland's edge. Within minutes, a dozen white-backed vultures have made way for him, not out of fear, but out of an order this carcass site has run on for longer than any myth has existed. This is not chaos. It is the fastest waste disposal system on this stretch of the Serengeti Mara ecosystem, and the charge of filth ends here, permanently. Because the same appetite on display at this carcass is doing far larger work far from this wetland. Researchers at Makerere University, studying the marabou storks resident in Kampala, found that a single bird clears roughly 1 to 2 kilograms of waste every day. Multiply that by the roughly 10,000 marabou storks estimated to live in that city alone, and the number becomes almost impossible to picture. 1 to 3 tons of garbage cleared from a capital city's streets every single day for free. When the city's official waste collection improved, the marabou colony's numbers fell in step, proof of exactly how much invisible work this bird had been doing all along. He is not the filth. He is the reason an entire capital's filth has never been as bad as it should be. Now, the charge of cowardice. The idea that he only ever steals, never actually hunts. Follow him away from this carcass, out toward a column of smoke rising on the horizon, and that accusation is about to meet the single most dramatic piece of evidence in this entire case. A grass fire moves across the dry season plain, and marabou storks converge on its leading edge from kilometers around. They do not flee the flames. They march directly alongside them, matching the fire's advance step for step. Every animal too small or too slow to outrun the burning grass is flushed directly into their path. Rodents, snakes, insects by the hundred, breaking cover in a panic the fire itself creates. Scientists call this behavior pyrrhic carnivory, and this bird performs it as well as any raptor on the continent. It is not scavenging. It is hunting, using a wildfire as a beater. No predator built it. And this exact footage has been watched by more people than any other image of this species ever filmed. Nor does he only take what fire hands him. A Nile tilapia, Oreochromis niloticus, stranded in a shrinking pool. A black rat, Rattus rattus, caught in the open. Even a young crocodile, unlucky enough to be small. All of it within reach of a beak built like a spear. And when an African fish eagle tries to strip a catch from him midair, he does not yield it. Wing to wing, near his own size, he holds the contested kill until the eagle gives up the fight. Consider, too, the largest wingspan of any land bird alive, wider even than a wandering albatross across open ocean, averaging 2.5 meters, with a verified record beyond 3. Every evening, birds like this one return to a shared colony, sometimes numbering in the hundreds. built into tall trees or cliffside ledges, away from ground predators. A single pair raises 2 or 3 chicks a season, both parents sharing months of feeding duty few cameras have ever bothered to film. It is the tenderness the nickname never mentions. The bird accused of guarding the dead spends most of his year feeding the living, one demanding chick at a time. The defense rests its opening case on one correction. The evidence never supported the accusation. It never even came close. So return for a moment to the coward accusation, the idea that he only ever steals, never actually hunts. It does not survive contact with the evidence. A bird that hunts through wildfire holds a contested kill against an eagle nearly his own size and carries the largest wingspan of any land bird alive, is not a coward. He may be this wetland's most complete predator. What nobody films, because it rarely looks dramatic, is what happens after the hunting stops. At the colony, a chick calls out, and one of 2 returning parents regurgitates a share of everything gathered today directly into its open bill. Both parents will make this same exhausting circuit for months, long after the fire has burned out and the carcasses have been cleared, because a single chick cannot survive without it. This is the tenderness the nickname never accounts for. The bird accused of guarding the dead spends most of his adult life keeping one demanding chick alive. And yet, this is exactly the moment his case takes its most difficult turn. Because the same superstition that once devastated his cousins the vultures has already found a new target. In parts of West Africa, in Nigeria and neighboring countries, this bird's gular sac, feathers, and other body parts are traded on a belief-based use known regionally as the muti trade, a belief passed down through generations who never questioned it. Poachers poison a single carcass, and it can kill dozens of birds from one colony in a single afternoon, harvesting a gift of protection from a bird now unable to protect itself at all. The irony is almost too precise to be accidental. Killing this bird for luck, using the exact species whose disappearance already predicts a worse outcome with total certainty. Vultures, hunted nearly to nothing across parts of that same region, can no longer meet that superstition's demand. So the trade has simply moved on to its understudy. Every one of these birds you have watched today, hunting through fire, feeding a chick, holding a contested kill, will return before dark to that same colony, generation after generation, if given the chance to. It is one of the slower reproductive strategies of any bird this size, which makes every adult in this colony right now harder to replace than the myths ever gave him credit for. The defense's case, at its turning point, rests on a single reversal. The bird this continent nicknamed after death is, in almost every way that matters, working against it. Consider the exact number behind that irony. Researchers tracking this trade across West Africa found that the marabou stork's range in that region has contracted by 52%, and roughly 64% of its known nesting colonies have vanished since the year 2000. What remains is a fragmented population, likely no more than 100 breeding pairs left across two countries, the Gambia and Benin. Scientists studying this collapse now recommend this regional population be listed as critically endangered, the same designation given to some of the rarest large mammals on the planet, despite this species remaining globally listed as IUCN Least Concern everywhere else it survives. Not because it failed to adapt, because the very superstition that made it feared is now the reason it is being erased, exactly where its cousins, the vultures, ran out first. So return now to the image that opened this film. A hunched black silhouette in the dying light, a bald, scabbed head, a throat pouch swinging loose with every slow step. You were told by every culture that ever feared him that this was the face of death itself, standing guard over the dead. It is not. It is the face of one of the only reasons death does not spread any further than it already has. He did not gather at that carcass because something was about to die. He gathered because something already had, and he was the fastest, most versatile, most complete scavenger fast enough to answer it. The world had this bird backward from the very beginning. He is not the Undertaker. He is the intervention. Tonight, this wetland margin will be quiet, clean, safer by morning than it would have been if the sky above it had stayed empty. Nobody in the villages along this river will ever know how close they came to the kind of collapse a missing scavenger always leaves behind. Nobody will thank the bird responsible for it, but the case is closed. The verdict is vindication. The Undertaker's case is closed. But every courtroom in this ecosystem shares the same dock. The next defendant doesn't wait for the kill at all. She makes it, running in packs across open plains, and her reputation as a merciless killer is about to be put on trial too.